Today's story is about a man who was born blind. You see, he'd been sitting by the temple gate for a long time begging, and each day people passed by. But one day Jesus came by and he saw the man, and he reached down and he spit on the ground and he made some mud. He took the mud and wiped it on the man's eyes, and then he told the man to go and wash in the pool of Siloam. And when he came back, the man could see. When other people saw the man, they asked, "Who is that guy? Is he the one that was sitting by the temple all this time?" "No, that's not him," they said. Others said, "There's no way that could be him." You see, the man himself had to say, "It is me, believe me." Then the people said, "Well, how did this happen?" And he told them Jesus had told him to go and wash in the pool of Siloam after he rubbed mud made of spit on his eyes. The other people didn't believe him. Just like our story last week, some of the temple leaders began to criticize Jesus because he had done this on the Sabbath, the day when everyone was supposed to rest. Again, others were upset and said he was lying. This couldn't be that same man. So they called for his parents. They asked his parents to come and prove that this really was the same guy that had been there all this time. And the parents came and said, "Let him speak for himself." The man again said, "It is me. It's true. It was me who once couldn't see, and now I can." I want to pause our story for just a moment and read to you a storybook called The Invisible Boy by Trudy Ludwig. See if you can draw the connections between these two stories as I read. Can you see Brian, the invisible boy? Even Mrs. Carlotti has trouble noticing him in her classroom. She's too busy dealing with Nathan and Sophie. Nathan has problems with what Mrs. Carlotti calls volume control. He uses his outside voice inside too much. Sophie whines and complains when she doesn't get her way. Nathan and Sophie take up a lot of space. Brian doesn't. When the bell rings for recess, Micah and JT take turns choosing kids for their kickball teams. The best players get picked first, then the best friends of the best players, then the friends of the best friends. Only Brian is left, still waiting and hoping. JT glances in Brian's direction and just as quickly looks away. "We've got enough players for each team," he tells the others. "Let's play ball." In the cafeteria, Madison and her friends talk about her birthday party. "The rope swing over the pool was awesome," says JT. "Yeah, so was the water slide," adds Fiona. "That was the best pool party ever." "I'm so glad you guys had fun," says Madison. Everybody except Brian. He wasn't invited. At choosing time, while the other kids played board games and read, Brian sits at his table doing what he loves to do best. He draws fire-breathing dragons scaling tall buildings. "Thank you for toasting my marshmallows." Space aliens locked in intergalactic battles. "I got you now." Greedy pirates digging for treasure. "Crackers? Arr! Yeah!" "Hi." "Hi, friend, have a cookie." And superheroes with powers to make friends wherever they go. On Monday morning, Mrs. Carlotti introduces Justin, a new student, to the class. Brian smiles shyly at him. Some of the other kids sneak looks at Justin, trying to figure out if he's cool enough to be their friend. They haven't quite made up their minds yet. At lunch, Madison and JT watch Justin eat with chopsticks. "What's that?" asks Madison as she points at Justin's food. "It's bulgogi." "Bul what?" "Bulgogi. It's Korean barbecued beef. My grandma made it for me. It's really good. Do you want to try some?" "There's no way I'd eat booger-gogi." All the kids laugh, all of them that is, except Brian. He sits there wondering which is worse, being laughed at or feeling invisible. The next day, when Justin goes to his cubby to put away his backpack, he notices a piece of paper with his name on it. "Justin, I thought the bulgogi looked good." Brian, "Yum." At morning recess, Brian finds a piece of chalk on the ground and starts drawing away. "You're Brian, right?" "Yeah." "Thanks for the note." "Hey, Justin," Emilio calls out from the tetherball court. "You're up next." "Sorry, I gotta go," says Justin. "By the way, that's a really cool drawing," he adds before taking off. Back in class, Mrs. Carlotti asks the kids to team up in twos or threes for a special project. The kids scurry around the room to pair off. Brian heads toward Justin. "I'm already with Justin," says Emilio. "Find someone else." Brian looks at the floor, wishing he could draw a hole right there to swallow him up. "Mrs. Carlotti said we can have up to 3 people in our group. We're only 2. Come on, Emilio. Let him work with us." "Okay, I guess." Mrs. Carlotti gives the class directions for the project. Your assignment is to work together to write a story about what you see in the photograph. Use your imagination and have fun. Whoa, cool, says Emilio. What kind of people do you think would live in houses like that? I don't know, but I bet Brian could draw them to go with our story, says Justin. Brian smiles as he takes out his lucky pen. The crooked story we made up on the spot. It's lunchtime again, Brian's least favorite part of the day. Another 20 long minutes of kids talking and laughing with everybody else but him. Brian! He hears someone shout, "Hey, Brian, over here!" Brian turns and sees Justin waving him over. Emilio nods at Brian as he makes room for him at the table. Maybe, just maybe, Brian's not so invisible after all. Cookie? Thanks! In the story, Brian feels really invisible. He's left out. He gets treated as if he's not even there. But it only takes one person to change all of that. One person who sees him, who gets to know him, who invites him to come and be a part of what everyone else is doing. Do you see how that connects to our Bible story? The man who was blind had been sitting by the temple gates for years. People had walked past him time after time again. And then, when he wasn't in that same place, in that same way, they didn't even recognize him. They had never taken the time to really see him. Jesus, on the other hand, saw him and paid attention to him. He treated him like a real person. He saw his need and he responded to him. He healed him. Later, when he went looking for the man, he recognized him even when he was in a different place. He knew what he looked like. He knew who he was. Our challenge is to be like Jesus, to really see people, to really acknowledge who they are. Every day, we're around all kinds of people, maybe not right now, not while we're in isolation from one another, but we have people in our lives who need to be seen, people who you might pass by. So the opportunity is there to help really see people as Jesus sees them. As we're separated in these days, how could you see others who might feel unseen or go unrecognized where they are? Could you go on a secret mission to drop off a card to someone in your neighborhood? Could you call up or message a friend on Google Classrooms, maybe the friend in your class who no one else is going to reach out to? I challenge you to have eyes that see like Jesus, to help everyone feel seen and known the way Jesus would see and value them.